It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you. It's daunting me. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghosts of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers. All these
My name is James Hershey.
footsteps in the rain.
Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. With my reflection I can't find. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoking gasoline. It's just the
That ought to
ghosts
do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let them take you away. Don't let them bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let them bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
On tonight's episode, we are going to be dealing with a story and a request from one of our listeners. This listener goes by the name of Really Sleepy Dancer, and she commented on the YouTube channel on one of our old shows. The show was the one we did, like the ultimate guide to shadow people or something along those lines. It was the Shadow People show. I'm going to start off this by reading her story that she left in the comment section, and then we're going to try to answer her questions a little bit. I've done some more research and we've dug deep, and we're going to try to break down her story and figure out what it is that's attacking her and what's going on. So this is what she writes. I can't find a story similar to mine with a shadow person that happened many years ago that has stuck with me since the late 80s. I was a teenager and sitting on my friend's couch after school watching TV and eating chips all alone. My friend was in her kitchen, a blacker than black 6 to 7 foot tall figure that resembled a human but had no features and was very slim with a long neck and small narrow elongated head turned the corner near the dining room, and it was coming straight towards me, gaining momentum as it came at me. I screamed. The chips went up in the air, and I ran out the front door next to me. My friend came running outside to ask me what happened, complaining about the chip mess. I told her what I saw and what it did. She laughed maniacally and said, "You finally saw it." I can't remember anything after that day. About a week to a month later, I visited her again and left in my car at night. It was below zero and there was a clearing on the side of the road, which was a cornfield, and snow was blowing across the road from the wind. I was focused on driving because visibility was poor. And this is crazy. From the right side, where there were woods coming up, the same exact figure stepped out. It must have had mass because the snow was blowing everywhere, but it was black blocking out the blowing snow. I didn't slow down. I drove towards it, and right before I hit it, it jumped up with left hand and knee up and jumped right through me and through my windshield. It was not in my car or in my rearview mirror. I flew home in a panic and told my mom. She asked me what drugs I was on and dismissed my experience as being my imagination. No drugs, and was not a hallucination or my imagination. I couldn't ever just imagine something like that, because I would have had to create it in my mind. I kept thinking, and still think to this day, that it was after me, because it was unable to jump through or into me at my friend's house when I ran from it. After that, A string of very intense and bad things happened, and went on for several years, that turned me from a teenager to a serious adult with no sense of humor anymore. I became a hermit and a workaholic at college and my job. Looking back, I was in deep depression and distracting myself with keeping busy. Now it's many years later, and I'm seeing shadow people, but they are not during my sleep, around my bed, or in my peripheral. They also don't come at me, knock on wood. My story is unlike others. Of course, no one believes me. I'm now on some kind of quest to figure out what they are, and I'm so surprised to hear that no one really knows. What makes me feel like I'll never know because I have not found someone that experienced the same thing I did, where it was out to get me. I left their house, and how did I know I was heading home and was waiting for me to jump at me? That's some advanced ghost or whatever it was. Sorry this was long. First time I wrote about it ever. Please respond, James. So that's the comment that she left me. Now I answered on the YouTube page and told her that I would be doing a show this week about that very letter that she wrote us and about her experiences and trying to help her out. So the first thing I want to do is I want to break down this story a little bit. Okay, the description that she gives of this creature or entity or whatever it is that was attacking her was that it was blacker than black, and it was 6 to 7 feet tall, and that it resembled a human, but it had no features and was very slim. So it had like a blurry kind of face. You couldn't make out individual features. It had a long neck and small, narrow, elongated head. So that's pretty specific. That gives us a pretty good idea of what we're looking at here. We also know that it went after her in the living room while she was there with her friend, and she ran away. She saw it again after that, coming out of the woods and going straight for her, and going straight towards the car. When it got to the car, it went through the windshield and through her and disappeared. She said she couldn't see it in the rear view, she couldn't see it anywhere. But she also said when it came out of the woods and it was standing there, you couldn't see the snow behind it. So it was blocking out a section of snow with just blackness from its silhouette. So that tells us that at that moment in time, it had form. Now obviously when it went through the windshield and through her, it did not have form. It's also interesting that it disappeared once it went through her. So in other words, it went into her and didn't come out the other side because she didn't see it in the rear view or anywhere else. That's very interesting and also very important. And another little detail here that she mentions after that is that she entered into a deep depression after that. That's telling as well. That means something. Now on our episode that she commented on, which was the guide to shadow people, we went through all the different types of shadow people. The ones that just watch, the ones that go to scenes of tragedies, the malevolent and the demonic shadow people that will actually attack you. And I think that's what she's dealing with here is most likely a demonic form of a shadow person that is actually trying to attack her. We also know that shadow people can possess human beings. Not all, but absolutely the demonic type of shadow people can possess human beings. We know this because there was a case that happened down south where there was this spot by the river, and when people would walk down there, they would get possessed by shadow people, and the shadow people would actually cause the person that was possessed to walk out into the river and drown themselves. We also had a case where that exact same thing happened, but it was black-eyed adults that did it. It kind of makes me wonder if the two aren't connected in some way. If we know that shadow people can possess people and cause them to walk down into the river, could black-eyed adults potentially be people that are possessed but haven't been caused to hurt themselves, but instead are being caused to do other things? Maybe, maybe not. Interesting, but not really relevant to this, but just interesting nonetheless. So we know that shadow people and demonic shadow people can possess people. Now, if you think about what that might look like, if you have an entity which you can see and it's coming at you and it's wanting to possess you, when it reaches your body, it very well might disappear. because it has entered you. It is there inside of you. If that is the case, it's not going to come out the back because it's stopped right there in the middle. We also know that in cases of possession, one of the things that you're going to have is deep depression. You're going to have the desire to harm yourself or to harm others. You are also going to have paranoia. You are going to feel like nobody trusts you, nobody believes you, everybody thinks you're crazy. There's a lot of different signs. You don't get all of them all the time. Sometimes you get multiple, sometimes you only get one. But it's interesting to me that she saw this thing come at her. It went through her, as she said, and then she didn't see it on the other side, which means that it either disappeared or it stopped in her body. Then after that, she had a lot of problems with severe depression. Now, to the question of what are shadow people, she said she was very surprised that nobody knows what these things are. The reason why it's so difficult to explain what shadow people are is because of how many different types of shadow people there are. On that episode, we went through all the different kinds. Really quickly, you have ones that just mind their own business and just kind of cruise around and they don't pay no attention to you. You have ones that will hide in your corner and just watch you. They don't hurt you, they just watch you. You also have shadow people that will go to the scene of really bad tragedies when they happen. They'll show up a couple days before, they'll be there for the event, and they'll stay for a little bit afterwards, and then they bail. Nobody knows where they go. The thought is why they're there is to witness the tragedy, and because they feed off of the negative energy, the suffering, the pain, the fear. They feed off all those negative emotions. So that is why they go to these tragic scenes. Then you have the malevolent and the demonic shadow people. These are the ones that will attack you. They will hurt you. They will scratch you. One of the things they always do is they will try to suffocate you. You'll be laying in your bed or something, and they'll climb up on your chest and literally steal the breath right out of you and smother you in your sleep. Sometimes you wake up while that's happening. On that episode, we gave several stories of people that happened to, where they actually woke up in the process of it and saw what was happening to them. But that is not the only way that they can attack you. They can attack you in many different ways. And shadow people are not like regular ghosts or spirits that are confined to a certain place. They can kind of go where they want to go. So it would not be unbelievable at all to think that she encountered this thing in the house and then she saw it again the next night while she was driving. So it left the house and followed her. That's totally believable. It's not beyond the realm of possibility at all. They absolutely have that ability to do that. Now, see, that's where we stopped on the episode about shadow people that we did. Because I thought that by defining the different types of shadow people, that's telling you what shadow people are, right? But when I really got to think about it, she's right. Because I didn't really explain what they are. I explained what types there are of them. The question of what are shadow people is more difficult. Because there are a lot of different things that can appear as shadow people. Demons can appear as a shadow. That is one of the forms that they can take. Malevolent ghosts, spirits, can manifest themselves in the form of a shadow person. You also have flesh and blood creatures, like shapeshifters, that can appear as a shadowy figure if they choose to. Then you have another thing in the family of demons that comes from the Arabic cultures, which is a jinn. Now, you've heard us say that word before on these shows. Now, when people think of jinn, a lot of times they'll think of genies. And yes, a genie is a form of a jinn, but it is not the only form of a jinn. Jinn are, in Arabic, basically demons. That's what it is referring to when they say jinn. There's all kinds of different types of jinn. You have the normal old jinn. Sometimes they're called janns. And that term is used collectively to refer to pretty much all spectral beings. You have the shaitan or the shaitan. That is a malevolent form of jinn. Um, that is one that causes illness and madness. Now notice there what that creature does. It causes illness and it causes madness. Madness is mental illness. Severe depression would fall under that category. So it is entirely possible that the shadow person that she saw that attacked her could have been a shaitan, which is a malevolent form of jinn. You also have the Ifrit, which Ifrit's kind of cool because if you're a video game fan, then you know of Ifrit from, I believe, the Final Fantasy series. And he's what's called a summons on there. And he appears as this giant horned beast with fireballs and fire coming off of it and everything. And it's kind of interesting because in Arabic folklore and mythologies, that is how Ifrit is portrayed as a form of jinn that is consumed by fire. Ifrits can be very, very cunning, very, very strong. They are pretty much always bad news whenever you run into one. You have Marids, which are very powerful as well. They're a powerful version of a shaitan, and they're very, very mean as well. You have the Bubu, which is a form of jinn which pretty much only deals with children. Its job is just to scare the hell out of kids. You have the Sila, which is a female demon, which purpose is to seduce men. We see that in Christian and other Western faiths as the incubus and the succubus. The succubus being the female version, the incubus being the male version of the sexual demon. That's kind of what this is, the same thing. It's the female version here. You have the Emir, which are spirits which dwell in houses. You have the Ghoul, which the Ghoul is a fascinating version of the jinn that we're actually going to do an entire episode on the Ghoul at some point. They are really badass. They live in graveyards, and they go out and they eat flesh. They're really badass. You have a bunch of different, those are just a few. I'm not going to list all of them because I'll be here all night. But that's a few of the different kinds. There's a lot of different kinds of jinn. So when we talk about jinn, it doesn't always just mean genies. There's all kinds of different kinds. And what I think she might be dealing with here, the shadow person that's attacking her very well might be a form of jinn called a shaitan. And like I said, this thing specifies in causing illness and causing madness in the people that it attacks. And that would fit the whole massive depression and mental illnesses she dealt with. Now, the interesting thing about jinn, the reason I say that it could be a jinn, is in the research I did for this episode, in trying to figure out what this thing was that attacked her, I got to looking at a bunch of different old texts, and in one of them it is talking about a guy, and I'm going to butcher this name because I don't speak Arabic, but Zubair ibn al-Awan. And this dude was supposed to have accompanied Muhammad on one of his trips when he was giving a lecture to the jinn. And in that text it states that jinn are seen, a lot of times they manifest as shadowy ghosts with no individual structure. Now to me that sounds a lot like what shadow people are. They're shadowy ghosts or shadowy spirits, and with no individual structure means they don't have a predetermined or well-defined shape to them. You can't see the facial features. You can't see individual fingers a lot of times. It's kind of all a blur. It's in the shape of a person, but it's not distinct enough. You can't really pick out the individual features. That fits. That fits a great deal. So then I went to what I knew about jinn, and I started researching more about jinn, and I found a specific kind of jinn that I think might be attacking this lady. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, that's in Arabic, that's in Islam, and I don't believe in Islam. I'm a Christian, or I'm an atheist, or whatever. Jinn are not only mentioned in the Quran. They're not just mentioned in the Islamic faith. Jinn are also mentioned in our Bible, in Christianity. A lot of times when they're talking about jinn in the Bible, the word is the plural of it, which is John in Arabic, and that is translated into Hebrew, which is then translated into English for the Bible, and it comes out as familiar spirit. So whenever you're looking in the Bible, you're going to see familiar spirit, like in Leviticus 19:31, Leviticus 26, 1 Samuel 28, 3, 7, and 9, 1 Chronicles 10:13. Where you see familiar spirit, they're referring in those passages to jinn, is what the Arabic translation would be. Basically, they're talking about familiar spirits, demons. Okay, it's all the kind of the same thing. Also, Solomon talks a lot about jinn. There's a part in Solomon where he brings jinn in front of him to be punished for causing illness and problems with people, and the jinn admit to how they did it and how to stop it. So it also carries over into Christianity. It carries over into the Jewish faith. It carries over into a lot of different faiths. So jinn absolutely do exist. It's not just in the Islamic faith where you will find them. So I think that's potentially what you're dealing with. And I think if you go through all of these different types of jinn, you will find a type of jinn that corresponds very well to each of the individual types of shadow people. You have some jinn which aren't good and aren't bad. They just kind of hang out and do their thing. Like they don't care about you. You don't even exist. They just go right on by, don't even notice you. You have a type of shadow person that does that as well. You have some types of jinn that just watch over you. They don't hurt you, they just watch over you. You have shadow people that do that as well. You have some types of jinn that feed off of negative energy. And they will go to sites of disaster. Well, we have shadow people that will do that as well. So it's kind of interesting to me that for each type of shadow person there is a corresponding type of jinn that matches that behavior. And we know from the old text that jinn will appear as a shadowy ghost. So that fits. So I think the answer to the question of what are shadow people, in some cases, shadow people are jinn. In other cases, shadow people are demons. Now, jinn and demons kind of the same thing, but kind of not the same thing too, because in Arabic, jinn covers a much wider batch of entities and creatures than it does in the Christian faith. Demons refer just to demons. They don't refer to all the different things. But shadow people can be demons as well. Shadow people can also be ghosts or shifters. So there's several different possibilities of what a shadow person is. It all depends on the individual type of shadow person, what exactly you're dealing with in each case. I think in this lady's case, most likely she is dealing with a jinn, a specific type of jinn called a shaitan. I think that is what is attacking her. Now, what do you do about it? That's a great question. What do you do about it? You've identified it. You know what's coming after you. How do you stop it? In Arabic, when they're talking about when a jinn is attacking you, in Islam, they say that you have to repeat religious text to banish a jinn, much like the exorcisms that we do as Christians. And that right there is going to be your answer. If you are constantly attacked by this thing, if it's following you around and trying to hurt you on a constant basis, then most likely what you have is a demonic attachment. That demon is trying to ruin your life. He's trying to destroy you and hurt you. He could also be trying to possess you, but believe it or not, demonic possession, full-blown demonic possession, is actually very rare. It doesn't happen as often as you think it does. In the majority of cases, when you're dealing with a case that has a demon on the case, where you go in someplace, somebody's being attacked, being hurt, you go to their home, you meet with them, you do some work, you figure out what's going on. The majority of the times when there's a demon involved, it's not an actual possession, it's an attachment. They're different. Now, an attachment can very well destroy you and hurt you also. So don't think it's a lesser thing. It sucks. It's no fun at all. It can go after you. It can go after your family. It can really, really do a lot of damage. But a full-blown demonic possession where the demon has control of your body and is speaking for you and acting for you and all that, very, very rare. Has happened and can happen, absolutely. But it's rare. The majority of the times you have demonic attachments is usually what it is. If this was a situation where it happened a few times and now you're seeing shadow people, but you're not seeing the one that's attacking you anymore, which I think is what that letter was saying from what I can make of it, then you may not be dealing with a demonic attachment there. You may just be dealing with a situation where you're seeing a lot of shadow people now. Either way, reading aloud from the Bible, invoking the name of Jesus, that'll help. Because if these are demonic presences, that's going to have an effect, and that's going to help you. If you believe you have a demonic attachment, the best thing you can do is go to a local church that has an exorcist, somebody that does exorcisms, and get with them and have them help you out. You know, it has to go up through the ranks. See, people don't understand that either about exorcisms. It's not like you can just walk over and do an exorcism. Like we have an exorcist on our team on the East Coast. And the way it works is we have to go in, we have to do the interview, we have to do an investigation, we have to actually do some spirit box work and talk to the client and do some work and figure out what is going on. Once we determine that it is demonic, then we have to bring in our exorcist into the case, fill him in on everything, let him listen to the tapes, let him watch the videos, see what's going on. If he determines that it's demonic and there needs to be an exorcism done, then it has to go up the chain of command. He has to go to his bishop, who has to go to his archbishop. And that's how it works. And it has to go up the chain, and then finally you'll get permission, and then you go in and you do the thing. But it's not like an instant thing. But that journey is worth pursuing if you believe you have a demonic attachment. Not just with shadow people, but any demonic attachment. That's how you're going to handle that. It will work if you follow what they tell you to do. Now, it's not always permanent. Once you get a demonic attachment or a possession and you get rid of it, that demonic presence is always around. It's always waiting for its chance to come back and to jump back in. If you give it the slightest opening, it'll be right back. It talks about in the Bible where if someone who is not saved gets exorcised, then the demon can come back and it can bring 7 other demons stronger than it, so that the state of that man is worse than before. Basically what that's saying is if you're not saved and you are possessed or you have an attachment and they get rid of it through exorcism, when it comes back, it's going to come back even stronger. So you have to listen to your exorcist. You have to follow the steps of getting in with the church, becoming a believer, and really guarding yourself against that thing coming back and hurting you. It sounds to me from that letter that she doesn't have an ongoing problem with this one that was attacking her, but that she had those experiences and now she's seeing shadow people a lot. But I don't think they're attacking her. So if that's the case, it would still be worth pursuing of getting in touch with somebody like a church that has an exorcist that can go and check that out, because there are tests that can be done to find out whether you have a demonic attachment. And once those tests are done, if it turns out you do, there are things that can be done to help you and to get rid of this. But you have to work hard afterwards to make sure it stays away. That's what I'm going to tell you. So I hope that that answers your questions. And I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on the letter and the whole situation. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, and I want to thank her for giving us this information on the comments in the video of our show we did. Pretty much, I'm in agreement with James. It could be a Jen, but it also could be a demon too. That's another thing that we didn't talk about, but they're pretty much the same thing. Other than they're a little bit different. They do different things. There's demons. There's different demons, and they portray themselves in different ways. So I totally agree. I've never heard a story like this before where like she'd see it at different times. It wasn't all the time. Like you always hear something like, oh, I'll see that all the time and it scares me at night, doesn't let me go to sleep, or it comes at me like the man in the hat. That's another one we think is a shadow person, or it could be something different. But and James's grandfather had experiences with that, and it would wait till everybody was gone when he would go to sleep, and it would just watch him. There's different, like I said, they either watch or they attack you, or some are just there to see negative things happen, like he was saying with accidents. Some are there to cause mischiefs and cause you to pretty much harm, to kill yourself, like he was saying with the lake. They call you in to kill yourself. So this one's weird because she saw something come out 6 to 7 feet at her friend's house, and then later on it came out again and jumps through her car, through her, and then it disappears. Then she would have depression and stuff like this, but then it wouldn't bother her for a while, then come back again. So it may be something that it's attached to her, and she just started seeing it, but it doesn't come out all the time. But when she was saying that she was depressed all the time, that seems to me like this thing has a control of her life somewhere, somehow. Not all the time, don't get it wrong. It doesn't come out every night and attack her or suck the energy out of her. But there's something, it got attached. Maybe when she saw this at this girl's house, and remember when you were talking earlier about the story, James, that she was friends with the girl, and then the girl would wonder why she ran out, and then she's, oh, you finally saw it. Well, that makes me wonder, did the girl do something to her? Put an attachment to this girl, or was it in that girl's house because they were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing? See, this is something you didn't think of. It was at the girl's house that she first saw this thing when she was eating chips. So maybe whatever this girl might have, put something on her, or it was something from that house, and it followed her from the house that she was at, and then she saw it out in the field in the middle of the snow. Then it jumped through her car window, and then after that, when she was going to college, she was having issues with it again. So whatever this thing was, and it could be a gen, and it looks like one because it's skinny, it doesn't have a face, weird looking, long body, 6'7" tall. It sounds like that, but it also could be a demon attachment. And I've dealt with stuff not like that, because I used to dream, and I could see people who've died that I knew would attack me or come talk to me. I would see my body while I'd be sleeping, fighting things. Just recently, a couple months ago, after doing a paranormal investigation, I had something purple attack me at night. I could see it, and I fought it off. But this is different. This thing seems like it just comes at her at different times. But then she was saying she was depressed and was a hermit, and this thing was affecting her life sometimes. So maybe this thing, when it jumped through the window, when you were talking about it, how it jumped through the window, it got into her and she didn't even know it. Because you got to remember, just because it takes over your body doesn't mean right away it's going to start doing things. It could say, well, you know what, maybe I'll wait a couple months, 6 years, or 6 years, 2 years, whatever. Then I'll start doing stuff. You never know. It's up to whatever the demon does, or the gen. And decides to. They could just make sure because if you get something jump into you, the first thing you're going to do is try to get help. So maybe this one just said, well, then I'll make it look like it doesn't bother her, and then a couple years later, it comes back and just torments you when it wants. And I've heard of that before. This situation's really weird because she was at somebody else's house when she saw it, and the girl said, "Oh, you finally saw it," and ran in. I was wondering when you would see it. So the girl already, to what it sounds like to me, is her friend knew it was there. And now it started following her. So whatever was at that house started following her. And it sounds like maybe the girl was attached. It was attached to the girl, and the girl got rid of it and sent it to her. Because I don't know if this is, like I said, there's a big possibility this is a gen, but it's also a possibility it's a demon. There's two different ways you can look at it. It's not that I'm saying James or I'm wrong. He's right, maybe, or it could be a demon. Either or, we're not really wrong. But to me, it sounds like it's there's possibility it could be a gen. It also possibility being a shadow person altogether, or it could be a demon that just followed her from her friend's house. Maybe somebody or her, the girl that she was friends with, maybe been doing something she wasn't supposed to, or her family was, and and it came out and it attached to her because, like James says, all you do is got to give somebody an opening. Well, maybe that demon saw something different into the girl, her, than her friend, and said, well, my job's done here. Now I'm moving on to the next person. And that could be a possibility too, because it could have just jumped to her and then she saw it. But the thing is, this is weird. Like, it comes out at different weird places, like in the middle of the snow and stuff like that. It came out of nowhere, and that's weird because why wouldn't it follow her to her house and stuff like that? It came out like when she was driving and stuff like that, and then jumped into her body. Well, that's weird because why would that thing be in the middle of the snowstorm after a friend was, years after this happened, and then jump into her body? So maybe this thing moves whenever it wants, and that's when it got a hold of her. When it jumped through the window, it went into her body, and then she said it disappeared. So maybe it attached himself, or whatever it is, detached itself to her. And then when she got into college, she was saying she was depressed and having all these issues. And that's what happens. They make you want to do bad things. They make you, like James says, go crazy. They can make you go crazy. They made friends of mine go crazy and do stuff. I've lost friends over this. They've died, killed themselves because they had something attached to them and it killed them. They would tell me. I had a friend, I used to stay at his house all the time. I said this before. I seen the man in the black hat numerous times. My old apartment, I had something there. It would follow me, and it followed my ex-wife. One time we had like this little toy, and it was like from Valentine's Day, but it was like a little devil. Well, I guess my ex-wife didn't like it at the time and got rid of it. It was back in my daughter's toy chest the next day, and she threw it away. It got back in the house for some reason, and we threw it away again. It got back in the house. And there was, I guess, somebody in that house was doing stuff with witchcraft, and I guess somebody killed themselves. And, like, where the laundry room was, I guess somebody had killed themselves. So, like, we had this dog, and when my ex-wife was pregnant with my daughter, she would go do her laundry, but the dog would go crazy. And you would go in there. It was weird. At night, the laundry room was dark. The lights wouldn't work. It was really eerie. And you felt like something was watching you. And I think there was a shadow person there because it was always a black figure with a hat. And it would watch me. And it manifested right in my face. But it never did anything. It just watched me. And it was really eerie. And but a lot of bad, negative things happened. We moved out of that house, and we thought we got out of everything. 8 months to a year, it started again at my house, my other house I lived in at the time. It ruined my life at that time. We got divorced. We had bad things happen. A lot of bad things happened at that time. So it just caused a lot of dread. I mean, one time I walked outside, and there was like a bird killed, like a crow, and they killed the crow, but they took the feathers and it was like somebody did a curse to my house. I don't know what happened, but I seen all kinds of black shadowy figures. It made me do crazy things, and it made me think crazy. Like I wanted to do bad things to myself. I never want to do things to people. That's one thing I never did, but to myself. For a while, I had to get away from that. I could notice when something's around, I would get a bad feeling. But this situation is different because it's like different times. It isn't like one after another, like the demon comes to her house and bothers her, or the Jen, every night. This thing only comes once in a blue moon. This is weird. This is different. I think it is a Jen. It could be, but it's a different kind of Jen. Like this thing over time just causes problems once in a while, but then it gets stronger and stronger down the line. And every time it appears, it seems it does worse, and then her life gets worse. So there's an attachment somewhere. And what I was thinking, James, is if you want to remember how you told me about her friend, and it was at her friend's house, is it a possibility, whatever was this at this house, just followed her from jump houses, or just followed her because maybe she had a different aura, like she was weaker than the other girl, or whatever he did, the demon or Jen did at that house, or shadow person got done and just followed her and just started ruining her life. That's what it kind of seems like. And I feel bad for this lady because if it's a Jen, you guys seen the Wishmaster. They don't, they say they give you wishes, but they really backfire on you. Bad things happen. And if it's a Jen, That's pretty bad. They're bad. They're bad juju. They're talk about them in every religion pretty much, and they're bad. They say you want to fear something, fear the Jinn. They were there for the beginning of time, so these are not stuff you really want. If it's a Jinn, it's bad. Shadow people are bad enough, and so are demons. But if this is a Jinn, this is a whole different ball game, Miss. I hope you find somebody to help you. Maybe me and James can help you, and maybe James. I don't know what you can do with a Jinn because it's not like a demon. You know what he was saying to go with the church. You're right. You can, but you can't ever. Whatever you're going to do to get rid of this, if you get rid of it, if you can, try to keep it away from getting negative thoughts, because once you do that, like James says, you're opening yourself again to being taken over by this thing. And it will take you over again, and then you're going to have the same problems you're having now. Whoever, it's not just this awesome lady who gave us this awesome story to talk about. Any of you guys, if you have a problem, try to get help. I mean, it would be nice for us to know about this. We could talk about it, but try to get help first. Because if this thing's continuously throughout your life doing this, there's not going to be a good ending. And that's what I hope you people realize. This is not going to be there's no good coming from this. So whatever you guys can do, please try to get help, like James is saying, to the church, even if you're pagan. Because if you don't, this is going to keep going on till you're done. And it's going to jump on. It could jump to your kid. It could jump to your family member. Any person that has doubt in their life and has drama or any kind of, problems going on, they can jump and take over that person, your kid. It can come after your kid, for God's sakes, or your wife, or your husband, or your grandmother. You're somebody who doubts things in life, has bad, just this doesn't see the world as a good place, or life is a good place. That's not good, because they can make you go crazy, can make you hurt people, can make you do something that you wouldn't regularly do, because these things are controlling your mind. So that's all I could say. I think it's real. I think they exist, and shadow people do exist. So do gens. So do demons. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I was saying. So there you go, James. There you go. That's all I could say on that one.
Yeah, the origin of the Jinn, it's pre-Adamic, which means before Adam. When you're talking the Bible, you're talking the Book of Enoch, you're talking those old religious texts. The Jinn was made before man was made. Basically, the Jinn wouldn't follow the rules. It wouldn't do what God told it to do. It wanted to do its own damn thing. So it ran into problems. Let's just put it that way. I can't go into the whole story. We don't have time. It's a long story. But these things existed before mankind existed. And Old Boy was absolutely right. They're talked about in pretty much every religion, every culture's folklore and myth have some version of these things. And they are very, very powerful, and they are very, very dangerous. As far as the origin for this lady, I think it's pretty clear it came from that home, that her friend's home. Now, what it was doing there, who knows? It's anybody's guess. Most likely, they were doing something to open themselves up to this creature. That's how these things happen. That's how, when you have demonic attachments and you have all of these bad things come into your life, it's because somebody is messing around with something they shouldn't be messing around with. The problem is our society and our culture today glorifies and makes it appear cool to do the very things that can bring these nightmares to you. Okay? We're talking Ouija boards. If you're messing around with witchcraft and spellcraft and those kind of things, those are gateways. That will open you up and open your family up and your life up to malevolent and demonic entities. I mean, they made a board game called Ouija, for God's sake. Where they market it to kids. Hey, play this game. It's so fun. Look how cool it is. You can talk to the dead. In reality, what you're doing is you're opening a door. Every time you use a Ouija board, every time you are messing around with witchcraft and that kind of thing, you are opening a door that is allowing anything to come through. You don't have a bouncer. You don't have somebody working the door that says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't come in. You're terrible. You're going to destroy somebody's life. You got to stay out." That doesn't exist. When you open that door, anything that feels like it can just walk right on through. The problem is, because you open the door, they're going to attach to you. They're going to hang around, and they're going to make you miserable. Like old boy said, these things can jump from you to your family, your children, your friends, your coworkers. Your entire life is fair game. And they don't have to just be with you or the other person. It's not an either or situation. So it could be that your friend whose house you were at was messing around with the Ouija board, was messing around with witchcraft, something along those lines that opened this door and let this thing through. It could be that somebody in her family was. Hell, it even could be that you guys had a party one night, or she had a party one night, and somebody she doesn't even know came over and was messing around with crap like that in her home and allowed a demonic entity in. That demonic entity hung around, attached to her. You came over, sitting there eating chips, minding your own business. It very well could have just been a supernatural case of wrong place, wrong time, where you were there and you looked tasty to this thing and it said, "Hey, why not? She's here. I'll take her." You saw it, took off running, and maybe it didn't want to let you go, so it followed you. That can happen. That's the danger of not taking seriously the things that open these doorways up. In modern society, we are taught from a very young age that all of that is nonsense. We are taught that none of these creatures exist. The majority of kids today and young people today, a lot of them don't even believe in God anymore. They don't believe in any of the old ways. They don't believe in any of the creatures, or they don't believe in demons. They don't believe in ghosts. They don't believe in any of this stuff. But we know this stuff exists. And that's what I'll tell you as I sum up this thing. We know that these things exist. We have fought demons ourselves. We have been part of exorcisms. We have been part of spiritual battles against these evil bastards. There are things that go bump in the night. I've said that I don't know how many times on these shows. That's not just a catchphrase. That's not something I put on a t-shirt to make money. That's the truth. There are things that go bump in the night. There are evil, bad things out there whose only desire is to hurt you, to destroy your life, and to make mankind pay. Because they don't think that we're superior. You see, the reason that the angels fell, because they had a problem with us. You see, God told all of these things that they had to bow down to us because we were made in His image. We were His chosen. They had to bow down to us. Well, they didn't see us as superior. They saw themselves as superior. I mean, hell, they've got all kinds of cool, fancy powers. They're stronger than us. They live longer than us. They know more than us. In every quantifiable way, they are better than us. That's what they think. And I'm not saying they're wrong. But God wanted them all to bow down to us. And a lot of these creatures, they don't like that idea. It flat out pisses demons off. They look at us as insignificant little scraps of crap. I know that because they've told me that. I've heard it come straight from them. That's what they view us as. Little specks of nothing. How dare we stand up to them? That's their view. These things do exist. You can absolutely open a doorway and invite these things into your life, whether you know it or not. You don't have to write out a formal invitation and mail it to them. You don't even have to know you're inviting them in. Just simply the act of messing around with Ouija boards and with different types of witchcraft stuff that you should not be playing with. But you don't know that it's that bad. Because society is telling you it's fun, it's cool, it's a game. No problem, no worries. Until you got a demon knocking on your insides and destroying your life. Then all of a sudden, not so fun anymore. All of a sudden, that game ain't such a game. The stakes of that game are life and death. Not just for you, but for your family, your children, your friends, the people that you love. This is serious business. And I think that it is imperative that we all realize that a lot of these things that we talk about on these shows are absolutely real. They're not the stuff of fairy tales. Yes, there have been fairy tales made out of some of them. But in the majority of cases, those fairy tale stories don't even touch what the real lore on these things are. They're dangerous, they're nasty, they're bad news. So I will keep you in my prayers, my dear, and I hope for your sake that if you are still dealing with this, if this thing is still attacking you, my advice to you is get with a church in your area that does exorcisms. Find somebody in your area that can do an exorcism for you and break that attachment. And then put on the full armor of God and protect yourself so that none of this ever happens to you again. I will keep you in my prayers. Like I said, I love you. Thank you very much for sending me the story. And I hope that I have been able to shed some light on what's going on with you and what it was that was attacking you in your story. I hope that you found some answers here. And I hope that you continue this journey and that you get the help to make sure that you don't end up being another one of those statistics, because none of us want to see that. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it back over to Old Boy so he can do his shout-outs.
And I want to thank you. I hope you the same thing. I blessed be. I hope you get safe. Find some way to get this. Go to a church or whatever you believe in. Find somebody to help you. But thank you for this. I want to thank all our fans from ParaX Radio and YouTube. Over 5,200 subscribers now, guys. We're over 5,000 finally, and going and counting. It's growing and growing. You guys want to listen to all our old shows, go ahead and go on James Hershey's YouTube and subscribe and keep it going, guys. We love you guys. So much content on the show, on the page. Over 815,000 people have viewed all the content all together. So we're almost at 1 million. That would be great when that happens. We'll tell you. And if you want merchandise, James will tell you where to go. You can get anything you want. You will Staring in the Abyss. Even if you want something, just tell us and we'll get a special made for you. Just let us know. And you can go on this. He'll tell you where to go on the site. So I want to thank everybody. I hope you guys have a good new year and have a good night, misfits, sugar ladies, monster hunters, and demon lovers. I love you. Blessed be. And watch out, because there is stuff out there that go bump in the night. Good night, guys.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. TEESPRING.com/stores with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. It's where you can find all the merch. Like Old Boy said, there's all kinds of stuff there. So if you want a shirt, you want a hoodie, whatever, there's all kinds of different stuff there. So just go check it out if you like merch, and that's where you can pick it up. Thank you guys for listening. And this one was a special one for me because this lady asked for help. She asked me by name to please respond to answer her question. And like we've said many times on these episodes, we do this in real life as well. We have paranormal teams. I have a team on the East Coast. Old boy has one on the West Coast. We take cases and we help people, and we go and we do battle with these things in real life. That's what we do, and it's nice to be able to bring a little bit of that to this radio show as well. So it's not just us giving you information about these things, but also we're able to answer some questions and to help some people, which that's one of the reasons I'm in this field, is to help people, and also to send as many of these unholy bastards back to hell as I can. Be honest with you, I like to kill things, and I really enjoy what I do. And you're not always successful because most of the time what we're facing off against is a lot stronger than we are. You know, one thing I want to say real quick before I go: if you're dealing with a djinn here, if that's what we're talking about, iron. That's what you want. Iron is something that will help protect you against djinn. They are very sensitive to iron, and iron can hurt them very badly. Also, silver. So make sure to help yourself, wear like a silver necklace, carry around something made of iron with you, some little charm or something made of iron, and that'll help a great deal to help ward these things off. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope that this has answered some of your questions, my dear, and I hope for the best for you, really. That's all I can say. Just, if you need the help, get some help. And that goes for everybody listening. So with that being said, we are out of time. So until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.